unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Terence Crawford says it is frustrating not being able to fight guys across the street with PBC. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, and the Patreon family. We working. Shout out to the Cash App too. Use the ESPN Plus link in my description. It's on all of my videos. It does help the channel. Los Angeles Times has a write-up with Terence Crawford. Link in the description. Make sure you guys check that out. And it says, column, Terence Crawford won't stop seeking legacy-defining fights. And in this, he's admitting that there's some frustration not being able to, easily get access to fighting the guys he would like to fight because of political landscape. Says Terence Crawford sent out a tweet last week but knew it was just wishful thinking. After Floyd Mayweather posted a photo of himself on Instagram saying he's coming out of retirement 2020, Crawford tweeted a Photoshop image of him and Mayweather squaring off, and the caption said, 2020, why not? Why not has become Crawford's motto during his Hall of Fame career, as he is often left to wonder why every big name opponent has eluded him. Crawford sat on the couch of the lobby in the hotel downtown LA, scrolled through his phone undisturbed. There was no entourage surrounding him, no one walking in and out of an adjacent cafe and reception area realized the man in the red and black tracksuit was arguably the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Crawford says, and I quote, "It's frustrating, but I look at it as a business move by them not to fight me," Crawford said when asked why fights with Errol, Spence Jr., Manny Pacquiao, Keith Thurman have failed to materialize. "I'm not going to knock them or be a hater, but I know where I stand and I know the game they're playing and there's nothing I could do about it. I just have to focus on what I can do and keep making a living and keeping my name up there as best pound-for-pound fighter." Spence, IBF, and now WBC, because he just beat Sean Porter. Welterweight champion expected to return to the ring 2020 following the car crash in Dallas. Unification against Crawford, the WBO champion, isn't likely. Spence is represented by Heyman, Crawford by Errol, and the promoters don't seem motivated to schedule the fight. Crawford said, quote, "I don't know if that fight will ever happen. That's not something I can decide. It takes two people to fight, and it takes two companies to sit down and figure it out and decide what networks we're going to fight on, where we're going to fight, what the purses are going to be. It's not as easy as people think it is, but it could be easy if we finally sat down at the same table and made it happen." Crawford was in LA to promote his upcoming title fight against Aegis Kavalauskas, the Mean Machine, December 14th. The fight takes place Madison Square Garden, and it airs on ESPN immediately after the Heisman Trophy. It's the perfect lead-in stage for Crawford, etc. Crawford is lacking a recognizable opponent. He goes on to say Crawford has wanted to fight name brand fighters, and his frustration is clear when he asked about one potential opponent after another. Listen. You're asking me about all these names. I'm going to keep telling you the same answer, Crawford said. I'm willing to fight all those guys, but it's not up to me to decide if I'm going to fight them or if I'm not going to fight them. I'm open to fighting all those guys. I've been saying that from day one. Nothing has changed. I'm the best fighter in the division, and I'm always willing to prove it. Crawford realizes he might need to take an aggressive personal approach in negotiations in order to get the big name opponents. Errol and Heyman might not like each other, but Crawford doesn't want that to prevent him from securing a legacy-defining bout against Spence. Quote, Bob Arum is willing to make any fight happen. At the end of the day, it's not up to Bob, it's up to me. The fighters are the ones that fight, and without us, there is no promotion. So if a fighter really wants the fight to happen, he can make it happen. You could tell them, listen, this is the fight I want, and I'm not fighting until I get that fight. It's simple. At the end of the day, they work for us. If we don't fight, nobody is going to get paid, so they have to make the fights that the fighters want. Crawford, 32, says he plans to retire in 3 to 4 years, but wants to add a couple more accolades to his resume before he calls it a career. I still want to be undisputed welterweight champion of the world, and I believe I'll be the first to be undisputed in 2 divisions back to back. I just want to leave a mark on the sport of boxing so people talk about me like they talk about the other great champions before me. That's my goal before I retire. End quote. As far as the Floyd Mayweather, I seen it, but I was in Vegas. So I didn't even, I was kind of on the move. I was covering Wilder's fight when this came about, when he posted this, why not Floyd Mayweather. I didn't, truth be told, I didn't even make a video about it because I was moving, shaking and moving, But beyond that, I know it's not going to happen. Floyd ain't going to come back and fight, Terence Crawford. It just doesn't sound likely. So for me, I try to give you guys the latest and greatest and be realistic with my assessments. And I just don't see it happening. Floyd been inactive, fought, last fight? Takashin, or whatever his name is, Tenshin Nasukawa, and before that, Conor McGregor. So it didn't even sound realistic. So that's why, in case anyone was wondering, listen, my channel is different. You can't compare me to anyone. I'm a one-of-one. I do what I want to do. I'm my own boss. I don't have this large team. I'm the everything, the editor, the one that travels to the fights, I'm El Mariachi Desperado. So I got to use my time wisely. So for me, given where I was at, Vegas, covering the fight, I didn't even have time to make this video. But beyond that, even if I was at home, I probably wouldn't have made the video because I'm not starving for views. I'm not starving for money. I don't have to make views or videos just to try to get views on some stuff that I know. What's the point of wasting my breath and in an individual video? The reason I'm making this video is because other things and direct quotes we're talking about. But I didn't really feel the need to make a video about this. I'm pretty sure that Floyd Mayweather, if he does come back, it might be for Pacquiao or something, but I don't see it being for Crawford. Floyd's done what he's done. He'll make more money fighting Pacquiao. It'll probably be, it would be an easier fight. I'm not saying not to disrespect Pacquiao, but Pacquiao is closer to his age. And in addition to that, and I'm not saying Floyd can't beat Crawford. I don't know, because I've never seen him fight. But bottom line, it's not going to happen. So it's not even worth me even talking about it anymore. But this article, now things are coming into perspective. If you've been an A1 since, A1 since day one on my channel, I predicted this. New media. I told you this guy, I've done everything in my power to on my side to show Crawford all the love in the world. I think he's a phenomenal talent. I've covered probably more than a lot of people, like even bigger channels, like of his fights I've covered the Postal fight. I went to the John Molina fight. The John Molina fight, I live in California, and it was on the same night as Julian J. Rock Williams when he fought Jamal Charlo. And then on that same card, they had Jesus Cuellar versus Abner Mares, which was a big fight, title fight for that particular year. It would have been much easier for me to go from, Bay Area, California, where I live, to LA to go cover that double feature on PBC. But I knew nobody would cover the Terence Crawford fight, or not as many people, because he was fighting John Molina. So I went out there. I remember it wise. It was cold, December 10th. So, I've always admired Crawford's skill set, and, I even covered the Ray Beltran fight. Flew to Nebraska from Cali for that. So I've covered several fights, and there's nothing I can't say about him as a fighter. I believe everything he's saying. I think he wants to fight the best. He would fight Danny Garcia, Mikey Garcia, Errol Spence, Keith Thurman, Pacquiao. I don't doubt that one bit. However, the issue, and I was probably one of the first major figureheads in boxing with the channel that does the commentary stuff that kind of predicted kind of the outcome and that it was going to be bad news bears for Crawford trying to get these fights. We know the political landscape, whether you like it or not. This is the thing people get twisted. This is nothing new. This is nothing new. Before, it was Al Heyman was working with Golden Boy, and Golden Boy had employed Richard Schaefer, and they were all one big happy family. And Golden Boy wasn't working with Bob Arum. Then De La Hoya started to be cool at the time with Bob Arum, and they made some fights, but Oscar was dealing with stuff and, rehab, and missed the Canelo Mayweather fight and different things. Richard Schaefer ended up leaving or stepping down from Golden Boy, and then Al Heyman left or, pulled the plug. And then Al Heyman fighters, he was advising them. He had a new venture, which we now know to be PBC. And he did his own thing, and everybody left De La Hoya. They didn't want to stay with him except for Canelo. Canelo literally the only one that stayed with De La Hoya, right? And the rest is history. With PBC, they're talking about coming out their own belts and stuff. So this was very easy for me to see that this was going to be more and more difficult. Now, I will say this, being objective, Terence Crawford is not absolved of any of this wrongdoing, and I told you that. I can't even say wrongdoing, but I'm just saying he plays a part in here, and here's why. There was a point in time where he would have been a free agent, and to my knowledge, and I have different sources, we'll leave it at that, I don't know that he reached out to any other promoter to see what was available, like particularly the PBC. I don't know if he reached out to him, if he reached out to Eddie Hearn, just to see what his options were before re-upping with Top Rank. So if I'm not the fighter and I was able to kind of forecast and shadow that, man, it's going to be hard for him to get these fights. Top Rank don't have the quality welterweights that they once had at one point. Then, this has to be something that was considered by Bomac and Terence Crawford, right? And the other thing that's concerning is ESPN doesn't promote Terence Crawford, which I've said, in the same fashion as other fighters who have the complexion for the protection. This man is good. This man is gold. This man looks very hard to beat. But Tyson Fury can gain weight and get fat and, obese and battle this and mental health and fail drug tests, fail a PED test, disappear from the sport, have to give up his belt. Terence Crawford didn't have to give up his belt. The only reason he gave up his belt is because he moved to a new division, right? So Terence Crawford, from a boxing standpoint, look at him. He's in shape, taking it serious. He's a model citizen. And ESPN's giving more shine to Tyson Fury, to Lomachenko, even Bob Arum. Bob Arum keeps saying Crawford's Ray Leonard and Lomachenko's Muhammad Ali. If you ask 10 people, 100 people in the street and show a picture of Muhammad Ali and a picture of Ray Leonard, no disrespect to Ray Leonard, but I feel more people are going to identify and know who Muhammad Ali is just because he's so iconic, and Lomachenko's getting, this man already lost, unlike Crawford, has less fights than Crawford, and the boss, the Bob father, is giving more praise, in my opinion, or a higher level of praise, comparing him to an icon like Muhammad Ali, and not the African-American fighter who probably has more in common with Muhammad Ali than Lomachenko. So that's my opinion. So there's that. And then the last thing is, at one point in time, Crawford was with Top Rank. He's still with Top Rank. And so was Manny Pacquiao. And we recently found out that Bob Arum admitted that he pulled the plug and made sure the Pacquiao fight didn't happen. Bob, let me see if I can find it just so you guys know what's going on. Bob Arum, he made an interview and he's like, nah, I made sure. Look, Bob Arum admits he killed the Pacquiao fight. He did it with Fight Hub. See, right there. Look, right here. Told you. He did an interview with Fight Hub. I'll try to put the link in the description. Bob Arum admits he killed the Pacquiao-Crawford fight, didn't want to see Manny take damage. End of. So that would have been the best name on Crawford's resume. it's a fight he can win, and Pacquiao's a legend regardless. And the man told Fight Hub directly on tape that he made sure the fight didn't happen. He said he detonated that. So now it's not just about, now it's about the PBC, because Manny Pacquiao's over there too. You get what I'm saying? So this is something that Crawford had to have considered. You get what I'm saying? There was a guy, you know, F the PBC sides of the streets. There was a guy on your side of the street, you know, not Mayweather that you guys just seen that graphic and stuff. There was a guy on your side of the street that was with Top Rank, and while you had an opportunity, because he was managing the career of both you and Pacquiao, you guys are all under the same umbrella, and Bob Arum is openly admitting that he made sure the Pacquiao fight didn't happen. And then who did they give it to? A guy that Crawford would later beat easily, Jeff Horn. And I thought that was messed up, because instead of what credit, okay, first of all, I thought Pacquiao beat Jeff Horn. That's my opinion, right? So I didn't even really look at Jeff Horn as somebody who could beat Crawford, because I didn't even think he beat Pacquiao, and Crawford's a different style. And I knew Crawford's style, another fight I covered, Crawford Horn, I knew Crawford's style would be all wrong for Jeff Horn. Pacquiao got lured into a dogfight, and, you know, he didn't fight smart. Crawford's ring IQ was just stupid. It's ridiculous. So anyway, they gave it to an Australian random person that had 15 fights or so. They gave him the Pacquiao fight, and it was a close fight. I still thought Pacquiao won, but even if you had Jeff Horn winning, you know, now he gets to reap the benefits. He can go his whole career and tell his children and things like that, hey, I beat Manny Pacquiao. I beat that Hall of Famer. But you see this man who was undisputed, doing ratings on HBO, fought on pay-per-view a couple times. He didn't get the opportunity to fight Pacquiao because Bob Arum told you that he made sure it didn't happen, because he didn't want to see Manny take damage. So they protected, like I've told you for years during that time period, that Pacquiao's team didn't want the fight to happen. So you have to look at the PBC situation. That's its own issue. But even before that, Crawford should have been at least given Pacquiao. So now while we're trying to get Crawford and Errol Spence, he could say, hey, I beat Pacquiao. You know, so get off my back. The PBC guys, they got their own path, so I'm not going to be able to fight them right now. But his resume would still have that name on it. It would still have the Pacquiao name. And that's my whole point. As far as the PBC fighters, listen, it's very basic. And the other thing is, Bomac and Crawford both said that Terence Crawford is the A side over Errol Spence. So in my opinion, and this is what I said from the gates, I think PBC is building their fighters to the point where there's no way that in a situation like this, the visiting fighter in that situation would be the A side, because Errol Spence has 2 belts now. You know, he went viral kind of for the wrong reasons with the car accident thing, but he still went viral. So his name was like highly searched and stuff. They're both great fighters. It's a great fight. It's not a fight prediction video or nothing like that. Nelly, hey, what's up, Dirty? You know, yeah. So as time goes on, despite the skill set of Crawford, you're going to see, in my opinion, if Errol keeps winning and Crawford keeps winning, how can Crawford be the A side when we know what the A side to me is not based on skill? That it really is kind of a popularity contest. Like Canelo, is he more skilled than Demetrius Andrade? I don't know. They're both skilled, but we don't know if they're more skilled because Andrade never got the opportunity to fight against Canelo. So we know Canelo's popular though. You know, that's what we do know. So Canelo's popular, and he's done numbers and put butts in seats and stuff like that. So these are more the reasons, A side, live gates and these types of things, why Canelo is number one A side over these guys. It's not really because of anything other than fame and notoriety and accolades and milestones. Canelo fought Mayweather. Canelo has million-plus pay-per-view buys, etc. So when it comes to that, Errol already has 2 belts. He got the IBF. He won the WBC from Porter. Crawford has 1 WBO belt, and then based on Top Rank, they don't have the talent pool, so they're not going to be able to get him most likely the bigger names to make him a household star. I predicted this. This was very easy to see. He's fighting Mean Machine. Some people believe that the Teofimo is not a disrespect to his fight. It's just Crawford's too good. So some people aren't even looking at Mean Machine as a viable option. Some people don't know who he is. And some people are even looking at the Richard Commey versus Teofimo fight as the bigger fight on the card, or the fight they're checking for more, because we already expect Bud to do good. You get what I'm saying? So it's going to be hard. They just had a DAZN card with Budapest or Budatev or something like that, and he just had a fight, and they're talking about that could be an opponent in the future for Terence Crawford. But again, I don't think those fights, based on everything considered, I don't think those are the fights that'll make Crawford a household name or make him bigger and bigger. Like, you look at Wilder, he just fought Luis Ortiz. It got very good promotion. I haven't seen the Amir Khan, the Crawford Amir Khan. ESPN didn't do what they did for Wilder or what they did for Spence Porter. In addition, Wilder has Tyson Fury, and they're doing a big production since both fighters won their last fights. And then Tyson Fury went to the WWE. So realistically, it's unfortunate, but the stage is set for Crawford to almost have to wait. And Bob Arum, it goes deep. I'll probably make a separate video about this, but Bob Arum has also done stuff where he badmouthed everybody but Errol Spence. Said all them other PBC guys, they're no match for Crawford. We only want to fight Errol Spence. But like I said, beggars can't be choosers. Danny Garcia versus Crawford, that's a great fight in an amateur rematch, a rematch from the amateurs. Mikey Garcia Crawford is a great fight. So I would much rather see that. Either those two, Ugas versus Crawford, those are all great fights and bigger fights. So I think Bob Arum has to bite the bullet and do what's right for Crawford. And while you're waiting for them to build Errol Spence and him to do numbers, you just have to wait through the process. And that's why Crawford is frustrated in this article. If you listen to it, he's like, man, there's nothing I could do. I'll fight all of them, but it's not mine. So this is stuff that Crawford and Bomac and everything would have had to consider when re-signing with Top Rank. There's a reason. New media, we've been on point with this stuff. Bob Arum's doing recent interviews talking about it's getting harder and harder to promote in the U.S., and he has a bunch of cars lined up overseas. He's talking about taking Terence Crawford to South America. Like, does he have a fan base there? Like, I don't know. That might be some instant money, like Ruiz versus Joshua in Saudi Arabia, just because they're not used to getting big fights. But what does that do for Terence Crawford? It's going to put him in a different time zone. And what does that do for American boxing? You have an American star who's highly talented. If he fights in South Africa, what time is it going to come on? You know what I'm saying? In America, what time is it going to come on? And who's he going to be fighting over there that makes sense? That type of thing. So there's a reason PBC's like, they're like got a vice grip on American boxing, and they have such a big stable. Now they're talking about coming out with their own belts. I seen this coming a mile away, and I told you that. There's a reason why Bob Arum is saying it's harder to promote in the U.S. now, and he's already taken Jose Ramirez versus Victor Postal. So you have a guy from Fresno, Mexican-American, and you have a guy from the Ukraine that Terence Crawford already beat, and they're fighting at 140 in China. I got the email. I got an email and stuff. So we'll see how it all plays out, but I understand why Crawford is frustrated, but I seen this coming a long time ago. The bottom line is, with a lack of talent pool on his side, him and his promoter really aren't in the position to dictate, no matter how good he is, because again, the A side is not really about anything more than popularity. And right now, Errol Spence, I was at the Staples Center for the Porter fight. I think people left with a a good taste in their mouth, enjoyed it. It had more people at that fight than the YouTuber fight in a packed crowd. You know, these types of things. And Errol Spence, based on what fighters are privy to him, they're ultimately going to get access. He's going to have access to the biggest names. He could fight. They could make Spence versus Danny Garcia. In fact, before the car accident, that was the plan of attack. They could make a Sean Porter rematch. I would love to see that based on how the first fight played out. They could make Errol Spence versus Pacquiao. So I really feel bad for Crawford, but at the same time, this is part of the decision making. Like, if you sign to a team and multiple teams want you, or scholarship, you got to look at everything. And the other part where I'm just like, you know, it's tough, but is this Bob Arum? He told you that, you know, I made sure the Pacquiao didn't happen. You know, I made sure the Pacquiao fight didn't happen with Crawford. I mean, who says that? Bob Arum admits he killed the Pacquiao-Crawford fight, didn't want to see Manny take damage. So he didn't reveal that until after Pacquiao left and went to Al Heyman, you know. So I don't know if Crawford knew that during, but that would have been a great name for Terence Crawford to have on his resume, especially because that's a name he has on reserve. So no matter when he can get an Errol Spence fight, or when he can get Danny Garcia or whoever else, he would at least have that. So I always revert back to that. Again, Crawford's very sharp. He's a dope fighter. I know fans want to see it, but you know the politics. And the other reason why I can't feel too bad is because in my heart of all hearts, if Bob Arum had the stable that PBC had, I really don't think that he would go out of his way. So if, let's say, Terence Crawford was the only guy in the welterweight division with the big name and all the skills in the world, and he was signed to Al Heyman and PBC, and Bob Arum had every single PBC fighter from Ugas to Sean Porter to Errol Spence to Danny Garcia. Mikey was working with him, Mikey Garcia, Sergey Lipinets, Jose Cito Lopez, Adrian Broner, John Molina, etc. Do you honestly believe that Arum would reach out to the lone PBC fighter, in this example, Terence Crawford, and put that at the forefront of his business to make sure it happened? See, people want to feel sorry for that, but Bob Arum, he's one of the people that started this, a bunch of in-house fights. Pacquiao, Tim Bradley, those guys, Brandon Rios, they were all with Top Rank, and I wanted to see Adrian Broner versus Brandon Rios at the time when they were both undefeated. I wanted to see Pacquiao, Danny Garcia. I wanted to see Danny Garcia versus Timothy Bradley. But when Top Rank had all these welterweights, they didn't make none of those fights. They weren't in the business of cross promoting and working with. It was hard enough trying to get Mayweather Pacquiao. So you can't be, unless you're ignorant to the history, you can't be too upset. Bob Arum did this too, you know. Tim Bradley wasn't out there fighting Amir Khan, you know. He didn't go out there. Tim Bradley didn't go out there and fight Broner. These would have all been great fights. He didn't go fight Danny Garcia because he was a Top Rank fighter and it was respected. So now that Top Rank is kind of running out of options in the welterweight pool, you know, it's kind of the same scenario. You know, it just didn't work. It didn't work out for Top Rank just because people retired, people end up losing. You know, whatever happened to all his welterweights, or they left, like Pacquiao left, and that's where we're at with it. So, you know, I just had to break it down and give my thoughts. So Terence Crawford, the other thing he said was that I didn't really agree with. He says, I don't know if it ever happened. It's something I can't decide. It takes two people to fight. I want to fight. He said, listen, you're asking me about these names. I'm willing to fight, blah, blah, blah. I'm open. If two people want to, he said Bob Arum is willing to make any fight. At the end of the day, it's not up to Bob. It's up to me. The fighters are the one that fight. But you look at that. The thing I don't agree with this is Errol Spence has entrusted, or whoever, Danny Garcia, all these guys, they've entrusted the services of their advisor, Al Heyman. And he's like, you know, I'm going to make you into a star. I got this game plan. You're going to get great fights. You're going to do this. We're going to do Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia. Winner gets to fight Sean Porter in a rematch, blah, blah, blah. So you're going to follow your advisor's lead and follow the plan of attack. And the thing about it is Terence Crawford, and I've said this before, he's phenomenal. So please don't twist my words and make it like this is anti-Crawford or whatever. But his welterweight resume, based on what's available to him, is not comparable. Welterweight, it's not comparable to Sean Porter. Sean Porter has fought, now he's fought Keith Thurman, he's fought Danny Garcia, Errol Spence, Adrian Broner, Devin Alexander, Paulie Malignaggi, right? He has amateur experience. He's sparred with Pacquiao. He just fought you guys. I mean, Sean Porter's resume. So you can't say, oh, and then he fought Errol Spence and gave him a tough fight. So if they did decide to do a rematch, how could you say, oh no, that's a weak fight, knowing Sean Porter fought his heart out, Errol Spence fought his heart out, and Sean Porter has a thick resume, you know? And then Crawford's resume will consist of Jeff Horn, who really didn't beat Pacquiao, but I still gave him credit for it. Jose Benavidez, who people made excuses for, said his knee was bad, and Mean Machine, and yeah, those are pretty much his welterweight fights. You get what I'm saying? Who else did he fight at welterweight? I feel like I'm leaving somebody out. Benavidez, Jeff Horn. It's about to be Mean Machine. Oh yeah, Amir Khan. And see, and that was forgettable. That's why I forgot about it, because Amir Khan quit in that fight, so it didn't even end traditionally. You get what I'm saying? So how can you get mad at Errol Spence if he fights Danny Garcia? Danny Garcia knocked out Amir Khan, and this was before obviously Danny Garcia knocked him out, and it was before Canelo. The version that Crawford had to face, just based on when the fight came about, was after Canelo and Danny Garcia and Bradis Prescott had already knocked out Amir Khan, and he was coming off a bad performance from Samuel Vargas. So you get what I'm saying? He fought Crawford. Samuel Vargas, he got knocked down in that fight and got badly hurt late in the fight. This was his comeback fight, and then before that, he's getting knocked out by Canelo, and he had a tough fight and got hurt in the first round with Algieri. He looked very good versus Collazo and Devin Alexander. Before that was Julio Diaz. He got hurt and dropped in that. Look, Khan down in the fourth, and Carlos Molina, and then Danny Garcia knocked him out. So Danny Garcia fought him. I thought Khan beat Lamont Peterson close. It was hard because the judge had two point deductions, but you get what I'm saying. And then Zab Judah. So it's Marcos Maidana. Look at who Khan was fighting at that time: Paulie, Marcos, Paul McCloskey, Zab, Lamont Peterson. And then he fought Danny. So it's easy to state that Danny Garcia fought the fresher Amir Khan at 140, and Terence Crawford fought him after he had already lost and been knocked out a couple times, had shaky performances. That's when Bob Arum and Terence Crawford were able to get to him, and that's just how it played out. But those are the facts if you watch any of those fights. So, it becomes hard to bash PBC or Errol Spence for fighting Danny Garcia, but Crawford had to fight Danny Garcia's leftovers because of, he's just looking for a big name and who he can get. So Al Heyman kind of got a strong arm especially on the welterweight division. So my thoughts, let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. We work. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.